All right, gather around, kiddos, because I got a story to tell you. So, all my life, I have always tried to do the impossible. I don't know what it is about me. Maybe you can relate, but I've never wanted a normal life. I never wanted just a basic 9 to 5. And side note, stay to the end because I'm going to start to tell you why that's starting to look a little bit more intriguing to me these days. But what I've learned in this life is that I've always wanted to do the impossible. Um, the best example of this in this story is when I was 19 years old, 31 now. I decided to completely do the opposite of what everybody else was doing. So at 19, I just got out of high school. And while all of my friends were going to college, talking to girls, going to frat parties, I decided to not go to college and instead pack up all of my bags and move to one of the most roughest cities in the world, Los Angeles. And I told myself that what I wanted to do was become a successful musician. Now, the reason for this goes a little bit deeper, but I had found that electronic music had not only saved my life in many ways, but also my family members' lives. My father actually showed me electronic music, and he found it after my parents got divorced. Something about the positivity of the music, the upliftingness, changed his perspective. So I decided, well, I've loved electronic music pretty much all my life since my dad showed it to me. I had been DJing and playing clubs in my local town, and I was known as the DJ in my school. So I said, of course, I'm going to go to Los Angeles. I found a school that really was it. It was the best place for me to go. Um, it was full of other musicians. It had some of the best teachers that were in the industry, and people that were graduating from the school were actually becoming real big time DJs, real famous people. So I was there. That was it. And while my friends were going to college and, like I said, doing the frat parties and socializing with other people their age, I was living in Los Angeles with two other guys that were 1 year older than me and 3 years older than me. We were living in a 3-bedroom apartment that was 3 minutes away from the school in the middle of Glendale, California. And I was going to school, 4 or 5 hours a day, having studio time in between them and between my classes. And I was interacting with people that were up into their 40s and kids that were a year or two younger than me. It was one of the craziest experiences because I would walk into school, and when I would look around in my classroom, I would be with all of these other music producers, all these people who came from all over the country and all over the world just to make music. And then I would walk into our lobby, and a very famous DJ who was actively touring with big artists like Hardwell was making music on the couch. Within the first 2 weeks of me going to school there, Deadmau5, one of the biggest electronic artists in the world, came and gave a talk at our school and signed my laptop. I still have the laptop signature, the signature on my laptop of Deadmau5. So here I am, achieving the impossible, doing this impossible task, and working towards it. And as the years went by, I was growing. I got to the point where I was playing shows pretty consistently, like every other month. I wasn't trying to actually play like opening slots as much as I was trying to just make a name for myself. So I was producing a lot of music. I was sending it out to people. I was networking as much as I could. And again, while my friends were just getting drunk at parties or, trying to get their degrees, and some of those guys dropped out and ended up doing other things, I was over in Los Angeles, networking with promoters, going to clubs and trying to talk to people. I was making music with other producers. I was sending music out to assistants. I even had one of my songs placed in a EDC set. So there was a really famous artist that I looked up to. His name was Tommy Trash, and he played my song that he got from his assistant that I sent to him. He played it at EDC. I think like 200,000 people were like listening to my song live. It was one of the craziest things. And I was there, although I was in the bathroom because I didn't know that he was going to play the song. That's another fun story. But anyway, so here I am, achieving this impossible thing. But there was one problem. Well, there was a few problems. So even though I was living in Los Angeles, even though I was working towards this goal, and even though I was achieving this goal, the problem was that I wasn't happy. The problem was that I thought that me putting all of this effort into achieving this dream would make me happy. But what I found was that a lot of my problem was within me. It had less to do with me gaining anything, and it had so much to do with me looking within myself. And so what I mean by that is, like, I never even gave myself in those moments like the time of day. I never even acknowledged like what I was doing. I was just constantly like, okay, well, what's the next thing? Okay, like, yeah, like he played my song, but like now what? Like, okay, like how do I make that something? I have to keep pushing. And I thought like eventually I would get to a point where I would have some sort of, I guess, whether it be monetary success, like an actual amount of money in my bank account, or some sort of fame or power or, status or accolade where I could say, oh, I did this. But all along the way, I wasn't allowing myself to feel that success that I was actually achieving. This impossible success. So it's this weird dichotomy, because the problem in this story was not that I, couldn't achieve a certain thing, but the problem in this story was that I was achieving the thing, but I wasn't recognizing it. I felt like this, there was this snapshot, this picture I had in my mind of how things should be and feel, and that if I just worked towards those things, I would get to a place where I'd be happy. And then here I was doing that thing, but it just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. And that's where this problem really came into, and that's kind of what I want to lead into in this conversation right now, is that I was achieving the impossible, right? I had these big dreams like a lot of people do, and I actually went for it too. Like I really went for it. Like I picked up all my stuff. I did it. I told myself, I'm 19. This is the only time I should do this. If I'm going to do this, now's the time. And so what I learned, and I had heard this so much, is that it's about the process, not the product, right? But I can tell you this, and I can hear this, and I can think this, but that doesn't mean that I'm actually putting it into practice. And so as the years went on, I had some other mishaps happen. At one point, I got actually into a legal battle with another musician, which I will share at another time because that was a pretty interesting story. But I found that this experience that I craved was simply a facade. It was a fake painting that I painted in my head and then became attached to it, which led me to suffering. And so anyway, then 2020 hits and the world shuts down. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so the resolution of this story kind of begins here, because while I was struggling mentally with feeling like I did something, like I finally did the thing I wanted, and while I was doing the thing that I wanted but not actively appreciating it, not actively being appreciative of this process, I decided, okay, I'm going to ask myself what it is I really want. I'm not going to ask others. I'm not going to call my dad or my mom or talk to my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. What do I do? What do I do? Or what do you think? Hey, here's the problem. Like, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? Instead, I said, shut up. Just stop asking others and look within. And anybody can do this, by the way. Anybody can do this. If you're struggling with a big decision, if you're struggling finding happiness, you can go to talk therapy. You can do these things, which I think is very helpful in a lot of ways. But I also think that we create a lot of problems. Because here I was with this, this success. Yeah, sure, I might not have been making thousands of dollars every month or every, day from this, but I was working towards that. I mean, I really was. I had so much momentum at the time, but I got in my own way. I also learned later that this lifestyle that I was chasing was not really what would bring me the most happiness, or would not bring me the most pleasure in my life, which is a whole nother topic. So what I decided to do was I decided to meditate. I decided to look within myself, and I told myself on April 14th, 2020, that I would meditate every single day for 1 year. Every single day for 1 year. And I did not miss a day. And I can tell you, and I have it all logged. And I can tell you, I remember saying to myself, I will find my answer here. If I can meditate every single day, I can find that answer. I can stop asking others, and I will find the answer. And what I found was a total surprise. And what I'm going to say to you, you might have heard before or not, but I want you to not believe what I say right now. I want you to please don't believe what I'm about to say, because you can't just blindly believe it, because I was told this so many times. And it wasn't until I started putting it into practice that I actually recognized that truth. And that's my point here, is you have to put it into practice. So you can listen to me and you can use this information that I'm giving you as a guardrail, as a roadmap, but you have to walk that map. You have to walk that road. If you're a scientist, you can use this as an educated guess, but you still have to do the experiment yourself, okay? That's my point. So what I found at the end of that year was that the answers that I sought were based on questions that should have never been asked in the first place. I discovered through experience that this success that I thought would lead me to that happiness was a falsehood, and that in fact that happiness was already there. It was already within me. And in fact, what I was doing is I was creating problems. I was creating problems to then try to find a solution and then attach myself to that problem and solution and try to create a path, when in fact it was literally all an illusion. It was all a painting. It was all just a facade. It was like some people call it a snapshot. It's like one frame of a movie, and you're seeing that one frame, and you dive into it, and you're living in this painting. But it's one frame of the actual movie. The actual movie is so much more dense. The actual movie is so much more dynamic. It's so much more real. There's so much more, visceral experience with it. It's not just this snapshot of, okay, there it is, the perfect life, the big time DJ, And what's crazy is sometimes it's not even visually a snapshot as much as it is a feeling of a snapshot. It's like this moment that you're trying to pinpoint and then live within it. And as you know, life is always changing. It's constantly moving around. So there is literally no point to that. So as this person who wanted to be this big time DJ and then got to that point where I was doing it, playing shows, working with major artists. The guy who played my song at EDC, Tommy Trash, invited me to his house. I hung out with him and had a studio time with him, a studio session. I mean, I was 23, I think, at the time, and fuck yeah, man, I did that shit. It only took me 4 years. There are people that work their entire lives in Los Angeles and don't get anywhere. But again, it's this fleeting moment. It's the snapshot that we create. And so my happiness was really dependent, has always been dependent on me. And I think that's why you should ask yourself these questions of what is it that I really want? And look, there are things that bring security. There are things that do bring pleasure and happiness as well, right? Having a job that you enjoy will bring happiness. But it's not the only thing. In fact, you can find happiness with a terrible job. You can find happiness by being alone. And in fact, I have found that being happy first is actually what gets you the thing. Gets you that thing that you want. For example, I'm married now to a very beautiful woman that I'm in love with, and it's amazing. I remember when I was 18, 17, 19, all I wanted was a girlfriend. And all I wanted was a girl. I mean, if you're a young guy, you know that feeling. You just want a partner. If you're a young girl, you may know that feeling. Or if you're a girl or if you're old girl or old guy, doesn't matter. If you're a person, you may know that feeling of wanting a partner. I just wanted a girl to be with, to hold, to kiss, to love, that I found attractive, that I thought would just, when you're around a girl, you're just like, God, this is just the best. And so I wanted it so bad. And I never had it until I literally let go of this desire, until I literally let go of this attachment. I remember when I did it, I said, I'm going to stop worrying about this. And it wasn't even like this, like, oh, I'm going to be, focusing on my career instead, or I'm going to do this. It was like, no, this is just unhealthy. It is not making me happy. And in fact, I'm going to work on myself. And I found this happiness within me, this, this desire that I had to be with another person, to be with a partner. I let go of it and decided to be happy with being alone. And when I did that, it took about 9 months. I remember 9 months of not thinking about it, 9 months of not worrying about it. And I found her like instantly after that. It was like right after that 9-month period, I kind of started dating a little bit. And it was like the third date I ever went on, the third girl I ever talked to, pretty much. The first girlfriend I ever had. So I think there's this beautiful art of finding that happiness within myself. And what you have to do is you have to let go of the thing that you think you want. And you have to find, and you have to be okay with not having it truly. And not just be okay with it, but be happy without it. Be okay right where you are right now. So if you want a girl, if you want a house, if you want a job, if you want whatever, if you want success, for me, I'm making these videos because I eventually want to become, a person with a lot of subscribers on YouTube. 1 million subscribers and getting millions of views, talking to people, teaching different types of philosophy. Specifically, I'm really into Buddhist philosophy and helping people with that. And in order for me to get there, I have to be okay with where I'm at right now and not just be okay, but be happy with it. So right now, I think I have about 461 subscribers. And I'm so happy that I have that. And that's what I want to focus on. So I'm still trying to achieve this impossible, right? I'm still working towards that right now. But I'm doing so in a way where I'm enjoying my life. Because I often find that I'm always looking forward and I'm like, how can I achieve this thing? How can I change these things? I just need to be okay with enjoying my life right here, right now, being happy with where I'm at. Because remember that happiness does come from within. And that often when I'm sitting here going, okay, I need to create this thing. I need to get 1 million subscribers. I don't need that. I really don't. I fucking don't. And you don't either, dude. If you have food, water, shelter, medicine, and somebody who loves you, and I mean platonically, I mean a friend or anything, then a dog, anything, then you've made it. You're fine. You can live life peacefully and happily. You can live life in a way that can help others. Everything else is a problem that we create. And that's why the people that do have those things, that do have the millions of dollars, that do have the millions of subscribers, either A, find more problems within those things, or B, find that that's not really what makes them the happiest. Yeah, it might be nice. It might be convenient, of course. Money doesn't buy happiness. It buys convenience. But there are plenty of people with a lot less that are a lot happier. Don't believe me? Ask a monk. Ask a Buddhist monk. They have pretty much nothing, and they are the happiest people in the world. And they've done studies on it. Anyway, this was my first attempt at telling a story. So if you guys liked it, let me know. If you want to hear more stories like this, you can always subscribe to me and check me out. I also talk about Buddhist philosophy on this page and how we can apply it to be happier people. But that was just my own personal experience of how I was attached to a problem and a solution that I was creating within myself that was not real, that was not needed. And that even though I attempted to do this impossible thing and I got close, it wasn't making me happy. I wasn't allowing myself to be happy. I needed to be happy in those moments as I was doing these things. So stop for a moment, take a breath, recognize where you are, and practice gratitude. And one last thing, if it's not easy at first, it gets easier. The more you practice it, the more you build the parts in your brain that work with it. The more you practice gratitude, the easier it becomes, and the more you're able to live this happy life. And isn't that what we all want, to just be happy in the end anyway? All right, guys, thanks for listening. I'll see you on the next episode. Give me a subscription if you like what you're seeing. And you can say bye to Radar now. Hey, Radar, say hi to the camera. And like, dude, look where I'm at right now. I mean, this is not my house, but like maybe one day I'll have a house like this. Beautiful. Peace and love, y'all. May you be well.